Alright. Hey, what's up, everybody? SPS Debo here. And, hope you guys are doing well today. It's Friday, so as you guys know, every Friday I release a new guide. This week is, it was gonna be a Sacrafice build. And I started to make the Sacrafice build, and I was like, well, let's go ahead and use a Ticklet and Visage with it as well, because I was gonna do next week, show the Ticklet and Visage build. But, in all honesty, I said, well, I might as well just go ahead and do both of them together because they work really well together. But this is the Tickler Visage with Sacrafice build. I might change this build a little bit later on to not even use the Sacrafice, to use Piranhas or Paragon, but we will have to wait and see. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started. First part is the Tickler Visage. 8 seconds, very important. You got to get 8 seconds. The Tickler Visage extends your fear to 8 seconds with Horrify. And with Spirit Vessel and some other cooldown stuff, it actually allows you to be able to get it to the point where you can permanently fear the target and the target can't do anything. So with that in mind, that's very important. I'm looking for one that has int vit, crit percent chance, and 8%, int vit, crit percent chance, has the 8 seconds, and a socket. Very hard to get, but I think I'll be able to obtain one pretty soon. The shoulders are pretty straightforward. Ogdil's power, int vitality, cooldown reduction, because we need that to go with the Horrify, get it down to 8 seconds, and also our fetish army damage. Oh yeah, of course you should always run the cooldown reduction gem, especially with this build and stuff like that. Give me one quick second. Okay, cool. And followed by the Ogdil's Rule, int vitality and fetish army damage, also by the Ogdil Search, and that has physical damage, int vitality, and crit percent chance. You got Tasker and Theo. I'm looking for a Tasker and Theo without the trifecta stats, but I mean, I would really like int vitality, crit percent chance, and critical damage. The vitality is just for survivability reasons. Let me see. I got my notes written down here. Okay. And then, of course, the Witching Hour Belt. Int vitality, attack speed, critical damage, more damage to the build. The double unity ring with our follower, just so we can mitigate 50% of our damage. We also have a Stone of Jordan, physical damage, and the elite damage, and the socket, so that's pretty cool. 2-piece Blackthorns for additional toughness and an additional 10% damage increase versus elites. And we just so happen to have the Blackthorn necklace as well. Preferably, I would like to get a Hellfire Amulet, but I mean, you know, those are pretty hard to come by. I also have the Starman Kukuri, which is kind of mandatory for the build because it amps up damage so much. And then also the Homunculus with the int vitality, critical chance, and increased fetish army damage. And I mean, that's pretty much straightforward for the actual gear and stuff like that. Now, for the gems, of course, we're going to run Bane of the Trap because, I mean, it's pretty much standard straightforward. Bane of the Trap, basically when we Horrify, it's going to be impairing effect, increases damage upon the target by 26%, and we really do need that damage gem since we're not running drums. We also got the Impet Enforcer gem, increased damage by 26%, 26.7, rank 39. And that's something that's also necessary because, like I said again, you're not running drums, so you need to make up the extra damage amp. And then, of course, we're using the Pain Enhancer. If you don't want to use Pain Enhancer, what you actually can use, if you'd like, is you can actually use Bane of the Powerful, because that does provide you elite damage and also gives you 20% extra damage after you kill an elite. So that's for our gems and stuff. You can do this build without the Starman Kukuri, but if you're going to, instead of the Stone of Jordan, you would have Ring of Royal Grandeur, and you would run a 3-piece Zuni on the chest, the boots, and the offhand. Drop the Sacrafice, maybe use the Doombringer, change the Sacrafice into Piranha's Paragon and stuff like that. And it works pretty decently, but it's not the most optimal thing to do. But it does work pretty well. Outside of all that, for the stats, it's 16% increased attack speed, 1.6 attack speed per second. It's not that fast, but between Big Bad Voodoo and the Pain Enhancer, our attack speed will get increased in definitely up. Crit chance is 50%. Like I said, if I had the 6% crit on the Ticklet and Visage, it would increase up to 56, which would be great. Critical damage 382%, area damage 50%. That's not a real big deal. 26.76 cooldown reduction, important because, you know, we want to get Horrify down to 8 seconds. 37% increased physical damage, which is pretty nice. And 38% fetish damage. I'm hoping to get this up to 40, maybe to 42, but we'll see. And then for our Paragons, pretty straightforward here. Let me go ahead and put a point to intelligence. Max movement speed, rest into intelligence. Cooldown reduction, critical chance, and critical damage. Armor, life percent, and then the last points into all resistance. And then we are going to do life on hit, area, and damage. And I don't know why I have gold fun. I think I got a Goblin Ripper. I was using the Boon of the Hoarder, but you guys get the idea. So area damage, life on hit, and resource cost reduction usually. But I mean, either way, as long as you got area damage and life on hit, that's really what you want to go for. There we go. Hit accept. And then of course for the skills, Rain of Toads, pretty straightforward. Highest proc coefficient for producing the fetishes. And then also Sacrafice, provoke the pack, so that every time we sacrifice a dog, we get 20% increased damage for 5 seconds after using Sacrifice. Jaunt with Spirit Walk, so we can stay in Spirit Walk longer. Fetish Army with Legion of Daggers. And then also Big Bad Voodoo with Slam Dance. Faces of Death, for we can stem the fear up to 24-yard radius. Pierce Veil, Fetish Sycophants, of course, is obvious. Gruesome Feast to amp up our damage. And then also Spirit Vessel to lower down the cooldown of the Horrify. And of course, since we have the Homunculus, we don't need to worry about having dogs on our skill bar, because every 4 seconds is going to make us a zombie dog. Since the sacrifice damage lasts for 5 seconds, and you know, we don't got really much to worry about, because I mean, by the time that debuff comes off, we have another dog that comes up within 4 seconds. We sacrifice it so we can keep that permanent 20% damage increase. So it's like we're having another Pierce the Veil. Alright, cool. So we're going to go ahead and get into this. I'm just going to warn you ahead of time. This build is really not the strongest in the sense of doing Trowers, which I kind of discovered. But it does get... It gets to a very high level. Some people have completed 41 with this build. I can definitely see it. It will require a little bit of luck and some nice gear, but I think it's very possible for this build to do 41 as long as, you know, you get the right amount of density, the right mobs, and not too crazy of a Rift Guardian. The weakness of the build is on the Rift Guardian, though, because the Rift Guardian takes a while to kill when you only have fetishes and you don't have a big zombie dog or the poison dog, which kind of sucks, but, I mean, you just learn to deal with it. But the trash killing and the elites are very good. As you can see, none of the monsters can really get close to me because I got permanent fear up. And the cool thing about it is when you use a tickler massage and you horrify, any mobs you run into are automatically horrified, which is good. There we go. Outside of all that, I can do very easily level 37. 38 is something I haven't been able to hit yet. I've been getting some pretty bad luck when I get to 38, but I'm pretty sure if you were to make a bunch of keys and then you were to try this, it wouldn't give you any problems, really, in all honesty. So, like I said, if you make a bunch of keys and you just try the higher up levels and you spam them over and over again, eventually you'll probably will get a nice riff where you can, you know, do your 40 and 41s, but you're gonna have to make sure your gear is geared to the teeth. Make sure also that you know you're leveling up your gyms and doing everything that you need to as the player to make the build work a lot better for you. You know, I do believe if your gyms are higher level, you got really good gear quality and things of that nature, it actually increases your chances of making more of a consistent run. If you run in there in a half-ass gear and you expect to clear out a high level and then you blame RNG, that's incorrect. The only time you can really start blaming RNG a little bit too much is when you get the gear towards the end of its step, when you get the gear pretty much like 90%, 95%, just you've done everything you can to make this build work. Then you can kind of start looking at that sense and being like, okay, maybe I just need to get lucky now. I've still got, like I said, to get crit percent chance on my Ticklet and Massage. So I got to do that. That is kind of necessary, and I need to get a better Tasker and Theo. But I'm pretty much getting towards the end game with this build. I want to keep building at it. This build I'm probably going to run until the end of the season because I want to see how high I can gig it, because it's just it's such a good build. Like, I was in disbelief when somebody, now I didn't invent this build. Somebody suggested to me and said, hey Debo, check this out. And I'm like, all right, cool, man, I'll check it out. And when I started to play it, it's really good. Like, it's really good. Because the Tickling and Visage just shuts down Elite. I mean, we're going to see it. You're going to see it right now, how it goes down. But I really like the build. Do I think it's overpowered? Yeah, I do. I mean, I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. Anytime when you get, like, permanent fear on anything, it gets a little bit ludicrous. It works so good in parties, it's ridiculous, especially if you have a pool monk that can stack everything into one area. But I mean, zero DPS, or at least Ticklet and Visage, has been played a lot and has been used to get people to greater of level 50, because the Witch Doctors pretty much just amp up everything. And as you can see, for the most part, the elites just sit there and they take it. They don't do anything to stop me, really, which is very nice. And especially with the mobs, like you see how the fear is, and the cool thing about the fear is when you activate the fear, you can run into a mob, and when you run into that mob, then it fears them automatically as well. The hardest thing probably about this build is getting those SNK and getting the Tasker and Theo, but I mean, once you get those, I mean, as you can see, everything else just gets shut down really easy. I mean, I got a lot of good cooldown reduction, so that helps my, you know, my fetishes reset the cooldown on Big Bad Voodoo and my fetish army along with the SNK, and you know, lets my Horrify be up permanently. The only thing that holds this build back is mob density. That's the only thing that I feel like can really cheat out this build. If you don't get good mob density on the trash and get enough elites, then yeah, that will definitely hurt your runs at a higher level. But if you get good mob density, and yeah, you'll have no problem just soaring through everything, if you can actually manage to do so. So right now I'm getting like okay density. It's only okay because it's such at a low level. Hopefully when I get to the next floor, I will be able to get some decent mob density. That has been my ultimate problem running this build. It's just, well, that and ranged mobs. There's really not much I can do versus ranged mobs. But that's been my biggest problem with this build, is just not getting the right amount of mob density. Now, for the most part, I can deal with most Act 5 mobs, because they get feared. As you can see, everything's feared on the screen. Sometimes you get Exarchs and Anarchs and Corrupted Angels or Morlus that stand on the outskirts because they're ranged and they cast stuff on you. That's probably the greatest weakness of the build. Is just like so the low mob density in combination with just, you know, the ranged mobs. It's nothing you can do. So this mob was pretty nice because I was able to get them all feared, and as you can see, as long as I keep popping my fear up, they're just gonna sit there and just take the damage until they die. And this is what makes the build just so viable, especially a higher grade of Rifts, because it's just nothing the elite can do. But see how these guys come up and they start casting their ranged spells at higher levels. That does hurt, and that will make you have a bad run. So if you get that with this build, it's normal. Every build has a weakness. Like, you know, like Jade build is weak to, like, you know, winged assassins and certain mobs that have like shield absorption or things of that nature. I'm trying to think what else has weaknesses and stuff like that. I know the Tall Man's Finger build has a little bit of a weakness, and sometimes the dog doesn't attack what it's supposed to, and or the fetishes get wiped out fairly easy and stuff like that because you don't have too much CC for it, you know, and there's different things of that nature. You know, so I guess, you know, it's okay for a build to have a weakness, right? Because otherwise it'd be too OP. But like I said, I don't mind the weakness of, you know, having problems with ranged mobs, and it might make it more interesting. You might actually have to look into getting items that basically reduce damage from range, and that might help out the build a lot. Lightning is also a weakness of this build, because if a monster or elite has lightning out, or the lightning affix, every time you hit the monster, even if the elite is CC'd, it's going to still emit that lightning. And sometimes the fetishes can block the damage, sometimes they can't. And you could use the necklace that does absorb lightning damage, and that would actually fix out a lot of stuff, especially with these Exarchs who cast his lightning spell right here. That would shut down that mob and all mobs that have electrified. So that might be something I need to do, or I might need to look into getting, like I said, my Hellfire Amulet, so I can cast Piranhas or Paranado, and I can put everything in one area and come up and Horrify. Also, if you do with 2 elites at one time, it is a big problem when you do with 2 elites at one time. Because when you do with 2 elites at one time, sometimes you can't get them all in the fear. Like right now, this is kind of sketchy right here. If this was a higher level, I'd probably be dead right now. But that's just something that happens. Sometimes you're going to get two elites at one time, and they're not all going to be together. But I was thinking, like, well, if you get Piranhas or Paragon, yeah, you're losing a 20% on the Sacrifice damage, but you get still 15% increased damage on the targets under Paragon. Plus, I can just, you know, put everything in one area, Horrify, and keep it CC'd. So I'm going to be looking to get a Hellfire Amulet and trying that out, and seeing how well that works, instead of running the Homunculus. But, I mean, outside that, I mean, as long as the mobs come together closely like this, and you can fear them all in a 24-yard radius, it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. I don't think this build is really taxing. I think I do overspam my fetishes and stuff like that out of a bad habit, you know? Rift Guardians and certain elites, you don't want to do that. You want to let the fetishes do their damage before you summon them. Spamming Big Bad Voodoo, Horrify over and over again, and Sacrifice is okay while you're doing your Rain of Toads and stuff. That's perfectly fine, but do be aware that every time you recast those fetishes, you're taking them off damage, but I'm trying to be good in the video, but if I overcast them, sorry. Now this one's electrified. Now see those little electrified targets on the side? Let me see here. I'm running into some problems right here. We'll see if I can get this all CC'd. There we go, I got it. When they emit that electricity, even when they're CC'd, they can't do Arcane, they can't do Jailer, they can't do even like Reflect or anything like that. But when they have electrified, it still emits itself. So if you don't position yourself correctly on an electrified mob, or have the amulet that absorbs electricity damage, that will pretty much spell doom for you. But I was pretty okay there. Half the time, if you just focus on spirit walking and horrifying everything, where do I need to go? Probably. Oh man, this is so bad here. I don't know if it's there or there. Okay, well I just gotta go. I still gotta go around the loop again. As long as you focus on fearing everything first, and sometimes you may not actually be able to do that. You may not be actually able to fear everything. You know, so you actually have to stop yourself and then, you know, wait till the monster's effects to go away after you start CCing it, and then you can begin, you know, doing your Rain of Toads, you know, and stuff like that. Because if you sometimes don't make sure that you lock down the fear on all the targets, the problem is that you're going to reap the consequences once that elite starts popping off his Jailer and his Mortar, all the stuff that's supposed to be CC'd. And the whole reason why this build works is because while, you know, you crowd control everything, nothing can kill your fetishes as long as you CC everything. You know, so as long as you CC everything, you pretty much render the elites useless. But once the elites start becoming active and start casting out the spells, not only are you putting your life at risk, you're also putting your pet's life at risk. And these guys are ranged, so I'm going to go ahead and get close to them because, like I said, ranged monsters really hurt this build. And like I said again, down in the future, I might actually have to look into that. I might have to look into actually doing something that, you know, maybe have a lot of my secondary effects, the secondary stats on my gear have, you know, reduced damage from range. That probably will help out a lot as well too. And, you know, that's just something I might have to look into. But for the most part, you can usually handle them pretty well. The only range monsters that really drive you crazy are the ones that don't like to bunch up, or like archers. These piercing guys can be a little bit of a problem. But sometimes, even with range, you can actually position yourself so that your fetishes take the shots of the range and body block for you, which is also pretty nice. So I'm trying to learn how to do that. You know, so if I got a ranged monster on my right side, instead of standing on the right side, I'll stand on the left side of the mob so that my fetishes will take all the range shots if possible. And we're just moving through here pretty comfortably. Really not a strain to do the earlier levels. 31 to 35, 36 is a joke. 37 seems to be right when it starts getting serious. And then 38 or higher is, hey, it's up to you, because 38, 39, 40, and 41, those are good ranking levels. Especially 40, 41. 40, 41 is going to require a little bit of luck. I think 38 can be done pretty consistently with this build, but I have to wait and see. Now, if they have shielding, when they're shielded, you can't fear them, just so you guys know. But I got 2 elites here, wasn't too bad. Well, I was able to get a pretty decent fear on everything, so yeah, pretty much all got shot down. And then the electrified is being blocked by the fetishes, so you know, that worked out pretty okay. So I didn't have to worry about that, so that's always good news. And looks like we'll be spawning the Rift Guardian soon. And a lot of the times, what determines your run if it's going to be successful or not, believe it or not, you'll have a lot of time before the Rift Guardian boss. See, that's what I'm talking about. See how the range is basically just over there? I basically just reposition myself so my fetishes take the damage shots. But anyways, the Rift Guardians seem to be somewhat of a problem for this build because the Rift Guardians get kind of crazy. In all honesty, they do. Now, the Man Carver's not bad at 31. He's terrible past 35. He does this thing called the Hook of Destiny, where he hooks you and then it's your destiny for your ass to die when he hooks you with it. There's also, I call that the Hook of Death, where basically you're going to die if you take that hook to your face, because there's a bunch of little mini hooks that hit you in your face. And then, you know, you got the little fire in the ground, you got the charge, you got the Waller. That was a Hook of Destiny. See how that just basically almost killed me? If that was a higher level, that would have popped my spirit vessel, but I wanted to show you. So that was a Hook of Destiny. Because like I said, if he hooks you with that, you're destined to die. Now, hopefully he doesn't do the Hook of Death. I don't have any potions. I'm going to run away, because if I take the Hook of Death and die, I'll be very embarrassed at 31. But yeah, it's just oh, see, that was a Hook of Death. If that was higher, I'd have been dead and I would have had to run back. So you know, Rift Guardians like him, you don't want to get. And I got another gem because I need another infectious, because I put that on my wizard that I'm making. Her name is Miho. But yeah, he's a little bit of a bastard. So anyways, we got to rank 32. In the next video, I want to go ahead and part of the video, I'm going to show this off at 32, and we're going to, it might be in a 4 or 5 part video series. I hope not. Hopefully I can skip on 32 or 33 so I can get up to 37 and 38. But we're just going to keep showing off the different Greater Rift levels. I might put 2 Greater Rifts back-to-back runs in each one, but this is just the first video to show how the build works, what skills I use, and how everything goes down. So if you guys want to see how this build's going to progress to the higher Greater Rift levels, just keep watching the video, and you guys will see what's up, and I will see you guys in the next part.